Hi guys, Terry here with Truth in Numbers. I wanted to come on today and talk a little bit about unsettling our adversaries, what that posture looks like and how we get there. So to start this conversation, I want to talk about emotions, tears. Back when I was 20 something, just out of college, a mentor of mine, I must have been crying. I must have apologized for crying. And she said to me something lovely. She said, Terry, tears are beautiful. Your tears are beautiful. And it's a privilege to sit here with you as you cry. And I'm really glad to be here with you in that. And what a kind, giving thing to say with so much truth in it. She released me from any shame that I might feel from my emotions. And I felt at ease with her sitting with me in whatever I was crying about at the time. Who knows? I was in my early 20s, any number of things, right? And I think of the tears, whether they're liberal or conservative or Midland, that any tears that we cry are beautiful and worthy of respect. And so when I think of our posture in the face of opponents or adversaries, I think of not throwing pearls before swine, the biblical adage, if you will. And so we do our processing offline with one another, with people who value our tears, value our pain and fear. And we also take the time to foster things that we value, like tenderness and gentleness, things like kindness, soul level expression that requires soul level care, and to keep those two together, the soul level being received by people who understand that. I think it's important. Now, that being said, I do have to say and I love a good podcast. There are some podcasts that I've listened to where people have talked about their emotions and process and journey in the process. And I find that valuable as a kind of a roadmap for others to process emotion and etc. But just want to underscore that pearls before swine thing, let's keep our tears in a safe place, our processing in a safe place. And then when we go to be public facing, let's be stalwart. Let's give our adversaries no satisfaction in any way, shape, or form that there's any break in our resolve. And how do we do that? I think of two things. I think of preparation and I think of maintenance. And under preparation, I just want to underscore how important it is to do the bookends and breathing kind of thing I'd mentioned earlier, where we bookend our day with microdosing oxytocin, into our bodies. And you can do that in a number of ways. You can do that by snuggling with your boo, giving scritches to your pet, talking to a friend or family member who's supportive, meditating, prayer, etc. If you're by yourself and you need to dose, you can kind of, cross your arms and rub your arms up and down. And that'll typically, induce a yawn response, which is good, and give us, a little break in the morning and at night and anytime in between. But then in the in-between times, this breathing, bookends and breathing. So bookends is the microdosing of oxytocin at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. And then the breathing is the box breathing, where we do like 4 or 5 counts in a breath and then 4 or 5 counts out. And that's before meals. For me, sometimes when I'm switching from one project to the other in a work day, I'll take a break, use the washroom and do some breathing, just to keep my adrenaline a little bit more checked. Because I can go on adrenaline all day with, everything on my plate at work. So that's important. And honestly, you guys, it's baseline. It's baseline minimum. It's minimum. If you think about it, we're occupied. We are swimming in military grade psyops every day. We have hostile foreign intelligence services all up in our government system and soon to be, in the seat of government. So it's really important that for us to move through this with the least disruption. This is the minimum we need to do to keep our headspace okay and to keep our bodies okay, because honestly, our bodies will, when we get in fight and flight mode, our bodies will take us, our minds, they'll take our headspace where we do not want to go. And that's just the way it is. That's just how we're wired. So keep that in mind. And I may bring that up from time to time, just as a reminder, because it is so vitally important. But when we look at maintenance, I want to talk about our media consumption, and bear with me while I fire up my laptop again, because I want to read from Russell Moore. I came across I'm on his newsletter list, and so I came across his More to the Point newsletter November 13th of this year. And so let me just walk through a couple of the paragraphs that I found quite useful. He says, we feel we are informed by having a steady stream of drama in front of us, our emotions driven up or down by the news cycle. So let's keep in mind that, and we know this, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've gotten to the point where I've become informed, and now I'm just, because every hour the same topic is addressed on a cable news network or on a podcast. Right now everybody's talking about the cabinet selections. So there's a point where it's like, okay, I know who they're thinking about putting in the cabinet, and I just need to turn off everything else. So more is not going to help me. The steady stream of drama in front of me is going to rev up my emotions, kick into the fight or flight. It's not going to be helpful. The constant flow, Moore goes on to say, the constant flow of real and fake information spikes our adrenaline, activating our lizard brains, and we throw our limbic systems into the sense of having to support or to oppose something, when much of the time there's actually nothing we can do about it. So vitally important. So it's important for us to know that there are things that we can't do, and why constantly feed into the fight or flight that makes us want to actually do something. We don't want to be doing anything unless we are being wise about what we're doing. Moore goes on to say, what we call politics, quote unquote, these days offers people a sense of meaning and purpose, an interruption to the dead everydayness of life, right? A jolt of adrenaline can feel almost like life for a little while. So he's consciously cautioning us to not mistake adrenaline for life, that it's not really life-giving. One of the things Moore goes on to say that we owe our country is our attention. We all know this, just reading it makes a lot of sense, is a very valuable concept. Moore says, by that, I do not mean our constant focus. I mean quite literally, our attention, our ability to think and to reflect apart from the roar of the mob. So we don't want to get into the mob mentality. We do not want to be in our fight or flight. And we want to have quality attention. News and information, Moore goes on to say, are important in helping a free and attentive mind discern what's happening and how to make sense of it. News and information as sources of a sense of personal drama or belonging, though, will fray your attention, scatter your thinking, and affix you to whatever mob it's easiest to mimic. So let me read that again. News and information as sources of a sense of personal drama or belonging will fray our attention, scatter our thinking, and affix us to whatever mob it's easiest to mimic. So I know in myself, I like to check in with my favorite newscasters, my favorite podcasters. I feel a sense of community in that way, in some regard. But when it came to day after day after day, hour after hour of, breaking apart who was being selected for what position in the cabinet, it was not helpful to me. It still isn't helpful to me. I think I checked in again on social media this morning, and I'm pretty much done for the day. So, but all this to say is, this sense of belonging can be a lie, and actually, given what Timothy Snyder said in a video earlier this week or last week, I believe. He basically said, instead of just looking at protecting the guardrails, we've got to look at building, and that's where we build community. That's where we're going to find our belonging, is locally, with the Kiwanis Club or the Rotary Club or the community center or the gym or the school board or the library, folk. Those are places where we can actually build and make a difference in society and strengthen connection. That's belonging. Belonging too much to the media ecosystem may have some benefit, but it doesn't go very far, I guess is what I want to say. So, so that's what I wanted to talk about from Russell Moore's newsletter last week. Is I found it very insightful, and there's more good stuff in his newsletter as well. So, so in maintaining, we want to maintain our consumption of media in right-sized increments, so to speak. We also want to know what we stand for. We also want to know what we believe to be good, and to keep a hold of that. The next thing I want to talk about is separating our emotions from the emotions of others. So the week after the election, I was touching base with folks, and I had been given permission not to get too upset. Someone, a friend of mine, just kind of happened to say, "Hey, what's in front of you right now? Anything to be afraid of?" No, nothing to be afraid of. So I, for some reason, was able to just walk around in peace. It might have been a little bit of denial, but I was okay. And back in the first video I posted, it was like, I don't have to pick up unpeace when I'm walking in peace. It's a gift. Enjoy it while you got it. Foster peace. And I just want to say, when we foster the oxytocin microdosing or the breathing, and we get that release from the fight or flight, it's important to stretch those times where we are at peace, where our bodies are resting, and just to guard that from turning on a crime movie or something that's an action movie that's going to get me, a little bit jolted with adrenaline. But just maintaining, looking to lengthen the time that these oxytocin hits and these breathing exercises give me of physical freedom from limbic system stuff. So anyway, back to separating our emotions from others. We do not have to pick up other people's unsteadiness or their emotions or their feelings. We can be there with them in their feelings. We don't have to own them. We don't have to make them our own. It's important for us to know what we are feeling and to be separate from all the other emotions and feelings that are swimming around. And to that extent, all the above, we can be clear-headed. So that's important. It's really important for us to be clear-headed in order to be able to see what's going on. Because if we're upset, we don't really see. We can't focus anything outside of ourselves. We need to be able to see clearly. We need to be able to decide with wisdom and discernment. So that's decisions about, I've talked to a couple people who have mentioned what they want to do with their finances, etc. Those are important decisions to make. Decision about what to do, what not to do, etc. And just clear-headed about how to resist. So when we're called to action, that we're available to step into that and have internal capacity to do that. And then also, to the extent that our headspace is well maintained, that our bodies are not in fight or flight, reflexive control is going to be useless against us. It's going to be of very little impact. And that's what we want. because that's part of what we're dealing with on an ongoing basis. So, given all of this, the preparation and the maintaining of this headspace and physical centeredness, how can we unsettle our adversaries? And I think being a citizenry that approaches each day and each outlandish maneuver with a calm certitude, I think that's what we need to do. And I think that is chainmail for us against what we're facing. So this certitude, this calm certitude, is two things. It's holding on to what's good and what's right and what's just. So the positive, but it's also being clear-eyed about the fact that we're going to take losses, and being able to stand, guys, to be able to stand in calmness when these losses begin to happen, and not be shaken. That's going to help us to be available, to resist, to decide, to see, etc. Okay? This unflinching resolve of ours, we're going to be able to stand in the midst of some demolition. We'll take some losses, but I also believe we're going to win. We're going to find our way through. We're going to show up every day. We're going to be clear-eyed. We're going to be convinced that corruption isn't the way. I mean, we know this. We've lived through 8-9 years of this. We're going to stay here. Corruption's not the way. Criminality's not the way. Cruelty's not the way. We are not going to give that up. We're going to know. We're going to stand that these are not our way, right? We're going to guard our hearts and our minds, our souls. We're going to keep them in a good place. We're also going to shape our own headspace. We're not going to let the psyops that we're swimming in, we're not going to let them shape our headspace. We're going to determine where our headspace is at. We're going to resist en masse, and then we're also going to forge our way into a new era of democracy. We're going to get past this, and we are going to forge our way to a new era of democracy. This is our horizon. This is our trajectory. This is what we're determined to do. And we're going to change the laws back. I guess I was just thinking about this. We're going to change the laws back, and we're going to reinstate checks and balances. And we're going to take back our land, and we're going to forge a way to a brighter future for America and the world. Guys, darkness isn't going to stand. Not in this land of light. As flawed as we are, as materialistic as we are, as divided as we are, darkness will not stand, not in this land of light. There are too many of us here forging ahead with what we've inherited over the last 250 some odd years, okay? We're going to stand, and we have a way forward to reinstate our heritage of democracy. So that's my message for today. We have stuff we can do. We also need to wait. We need to be ready, and we need to be disciplined. So discipline with our headspace, discipline with our emotions, etc. Discipline with our limbic system, right? But that's the bulk of it. Thinking about everybody out there. I hope you all are doing well and just, practicing the basics to stay well, keep a good headspace and all. And, take care out there. All right, guys. See you next time.